Hi, boys and girls. Welcome to your first S.O.A.R class. My name is Miss Volkmanik, and I'll be your S.O.A.R teacher. S.O.A.R stands for the Science of Oceaneering, Aerospace, and Robotics. And in this class, we'll be learning about flying, airplanes, outer space, the ocean, submarines, boats, all sorts of fun things. And when we come back in person, we'll be doing some robots, hopefully. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Today, we are going to be talking about airplanes. The first airplanes were created over 100 years ago by the Wright brothers. So if you've ever been to the Outer Banks, Kitty Hawk, at the dunes, they have some of the biplanes to look at, and there's a museum for the Wright brothers. So this is called a biplane because it has two wings, a top and a bottom wing. All right, today we are going to be learning about a famous pilot named Amelia Earhart. Now, this book is called I Am Amelia Earhart, but I don't feel like Amelia Earhart. I feel much more like Miss Volkmanik. So I think I need to put on some pilot gear. Do you know what a pilot needs to wear? Well, I think I should protect my head. So I'm going to put on a helmet. Long ago in these planes, these were completely open, so they need to protect their eyes too, so they would wear goggles. So here are my cool goggles. And I need to totally look the part, so I'm going to put on my bomber jacket. Zip that up. And Amelia Earhart was big into fashion, so she would always add a scarf to make it a little fancier. Now, a cool thing about her scarves, several of her scarves have made it into outer space. All right, let me adjust myself. They made it into outer space because different astronauts have taken them with them on some of their flights. So that's pretty cool. All right, here we go. I feel a little bit more like a pilot. All right, here we go with I Am Amelia Earhart. When I was little, people told me that girls should wear dresses and play with dolls. They said we shouldn't have unladylike adventures. I did not agree. In fact, when I was 7 years old, my sister and I decided to build our own roller coaster in our backyard. We placed 2 planks of wood up against the side of our tool shed. Grandma's not gonna like this. The cab was a wooden packing box with roller skate wheels attached to the bottom. We greased the wood with lard so we'd move super fast. Amelia, are you sure this is a good idea? This isn't a good idea. This is a great idea. Of course, I got to ride first. This was my moment. Here we go. In 3, 2. I still remember the wind in my face. My stomach seemed to sink. I was flying. Amelia Earhart, take it apart this instant. The crash was loud and noisy and messy. It certainly wasn't ladylike, but it was awesome. That was awesome! It wasn't the last time I would fly. As I got older, I went to many air shows. When I was 23 years old, but still a kid at heart, my dad took me to meet Frank Hawks, a man who would eventually set many of his own flight records. You ready? I'm ready. For $10, Hawks agreed to take me on my very first flight. For 10 minutes, we flew through the sky and out over the Pacific Ocean. By the time I was 200 or 300 feet off the ground, I knew one thing. I had to fly. So you're upside down here? To save for my flying lessons, I worked as a truck driver, which wasn't ladylike either. Move it, Mac. A stenographer, which is a fancy schmancy word for someone who writes down what people say. Blah, 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 blah. And even a photographer. Say snook. 6 months after I learned to fly, I bought a bright yellow used biplane that I named Canary. Canary is a cool name for a plane, right? This is my instructor, a woman named Netta Snook. That's her real name. But here's my secret. I wasn't a natural. I wasn't the best pilot. I just worked harder than anyone else. That's enough flying for today. No, I can do better. One more flight. Most important, like that day on the roller coaster, I dared to do what so many said couldn't be done. A girl flying across the Atlantic? Amelia, you sure this is a good idea? This isn't a good idea. It's the best idea. I became the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean, and then the first woman to fly by myself across the Atlantic. Back then, people took boats to get to Europe, sailing for weeks. Planes were still a new thing. In fact, on the day I took off, one magazine ran an article that said women would never be able to fly that far. But I did. To do it, I had to fly for 14 hours and 56 minutes with no rest, no break. Sometimes the sun was so blinding, I could barely see where I was going. In the process, I also broke the record for crossing the ocean in the shortest time, doing it faster than any man or woman ever. This is awesome! On October 1922, I broke the women's altitude record by rising to 14,000 feet. And in July 1930, I set a speed record of over 181 miles. Then I broke an altitude record, which is just a fancy schmancy way of saying I went higher than anyone else. How high did I go? About 12 Empire State Buildings, straight up, at a time when no woman had ever gone that far, gone that high. In my life, I took many flights. Every single time there was someone who said that I wouldn't be able to do it. Never let anyone stop you. Whatever your dream is, chase it. Work hard for it. You'll find it. It's the best lesson that I can give you. I am Amelia Earhart. I know no bounds, and I hope you'll remember that the greatest flight you'll ever take is the one no one has ever tried before. Here is a picture of Amelia Earhart. And here she is in her plane. And this is the Canary, her first biplane. See the top and the bottom wings? Over here is Frank Hawks, who took her on her first plane ride, and Netta Snook, who was her flight instructor. All right, so now we're gonna look at an airplane, and we're gonna look at what the different parts of the airplane are called. So I have a little balsa wood plane here. This long body part is called a fuselage. A fuselage is the body of an airplane. Then we have these right here. Do you know what those are called? Those are called the wings. Back here, just like a cat or dog at the back, this is the airplane's tail. And up here that would spin around is called the propeller. And I don't have it on my airplane, but the pilot would sit right about here in the middle, right up here, and they would sit in the cockpit. So these are the parts of an airplane. Tomorrow, if you want to come to class, we are going to be learning how to draw our own airplane, and we'll be labeling the different parts. And on Thursday, we will be learning how airplanes fly and the different movements. We'll play some games along with that. So tomorrow, if you come back to S.O.A.R class, I need you to bring a piece of paper, a pencil, and a marker so that we can draw our airplanes. Okay? Thanks so much for joining us at our first S.O.A.R class. Bye.